Thanks everybody for coming. It's a great turnout again, and hopefully we're making some progress. I think if you take anything away from the meeting tonight, though, it's don't let up. That the letters have to keep coming, and he enjoys.
I'm all set.
He enjoys. He enjoys opening.
I'm all set.
Bridgewater Power Company is one of the original plants that came online. We came on in 1987. Right now, there's 4 of us that are operating without contracts. It's Bridgewater, Pine Tree Power Bethlehem, Pine Tree Power Tamworth, and the Indec Alexandria plants. And Bridgewater is a 15 megawatt plant, puts out about 130,000 megawatts a year, and we burn about 235,000 green tons of whole tree chips per year. Ash, we produce about 4,500 tons of ash per year, and I think you'll hear later from Charlie Hansen and Sheila from Resource Management, Inc. A staff of 19, and I think that most importantly, with the staff of 19, it's the importance of the jobs, and I think that that's what everybody's here for, is to focus on what the industry means and what the loss of those jobs would be. At Bridgewater, 18 out of 19 of our guys own their own homes. It's been a good job for everybody. It's been a job that pays reasonably well for our area. It provides benefits. The employees, many of them are coaches in the area. They're civic leaders. I mean, they're New Hampshire people. We're part of what goes on in the state and want to be here to stay. And so I start here with kind of why wood, and I think that we're preaching to the choir a little bit, but have to go through it again. And the plant, 235,000 tons of chips, is about $5.5 to $7.5 million a year of wood fuel just from our plant alone. And that, that obviously depends on price of wood, but $25 a ton wood is about 5.85 maybe. Direct employment, $1.5 to $2 million per year in direct employment. Indirect employment, we've done surveys and think there's 80 to 100 employees per plant. So that's somewhere close to 400 employees that would be affected by these plants if they did close. Property tax expenditures, that's really dependent upon revenue for the plants, because the one thing that's different about utility property is they tax utility property based on the discounted cash flow of the facility. So we maxed out close to $600,000 a year in property tax. Now we're down around $100,000 a year. Community relations, we've had great owners. We've had the same owners since 1987. We have a budget somewhere in the $35,000 a year. One of our bigger projects, we contributed $200,000 to the Bridgewater Village School. So as I say, we've been an integral part of the community that we serve. Permit fees, we paid to the state just last week $53,000 for our air permits, so thank you very much, State of New Hampshire. State income taxes, supplier fees and taxes, employee taxes. And so really, why would we're below PS&H's default service rate, and we really think that we should be part of the mix. PS&H currently has a default service rate of 8.7 cents, and that rate is made up of their generation, some contract purchases, and short-term energy purchases. And we've offered a rate that's right in line with their blended rate. So where we've been, where we are, we started in 1987, had 20-year rate agreements with Public Service Company of New Hampshire. One of the things that I try to tell Public Service Company of New Hampshire, or I try to tell the people over at Department of Resources and Economic Development, the Governor's Office, any of the politicians that I talk to, rather than talk about, sometimes they talk about high rates and the things that happened during the course of those 20 years, I talk about it as a success story. We're one of the renewable energy success stories that's looked upon in the entire nation as a success. Hundreds of small businesses started from these rate orders. The forests are in better shape today because of you guys and the work that you're able to do out there with the low-grade markets. So it's really been a success story, and I think that's the part that people who don't know about the industry need to know. They need to know that there were no subsidies. There's never been a subsidy. The plants first started with 20-year rate orders that were based on the avoided costs of Public Service Company of New Hampshire. A federal law was passed in 1978 called PURPA. It was called the Public Utility Regulatory Policy Act. And that encouraged the use of cogeneration or renewable resources. And when a utility needed to produce power or needed to go out because they had a demand for power, they had to go out and issue requests for proposal. And if somebody that could generate with a renewable resource or with a cogeneration plant that had a certain thermal efficiency could do it for those avoided costs, they got the contracts. So no subsidy. We operated under those contracts. Owners put up 100% of the equity. We were different from utilities. Any cost increase to us affected our bottom line. We did not get a regulated rate of return like a utility. We were straight private business, and any increase in costs affected our profit. The rates were based on PSNH's projections, and they were approved by the New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission. Since then, in 2007, many of the plants put on significant capital upgrades to qualify for renewable portfolio standards. Again, some people talk about renewable portfolio standards as being a subsidy. They're not a subsidy. People, citizens of the state, said they wanted an energy choice, and they wanted energy produced by renewable resources, and they wanted clean air. That's not a subsidy. That's a choice. It's no different than whether you buy a Mercedes or you buy a Honda Accord or whatever. It's a choice. And so that power was a little bit more expensive, so the credits were there to hopefully offset some of that capital cost that had to be put in and increased operating costs that we're faced with every day. We entered into a 3-year fixed price contract at that time with a company called Constellation New Energy. We sold from September of 2007 through August of 2010 under that contract, and we came off the contract at the end of August, and we've been operating without a contract since. And I believe the 2 Pine Tree plants came off of their contracts in December of this year, at the end of the year. So starting January 1st of this year, they've been off their contracts. Is that right?
Yes.
And Indec, Alexandria, when they came back online, I don't think they ever had a fixed price contract. Is that correct? Under that contract, all our power was sold for 3 years. It was bundled, our energy, our capacity, and our renewable energy credits. And again, we've sold real time since the end of August.